This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome to the longest running weekly episodic comic book podcast in all of Place to Be Nation.
Wait a minute, Greg. Shouldn't it be in all rise of Place to Be Nation?
I see you're starting us off on our trolling game very strong this week, Nick.
I've been indoctrinated, sir. It's all I've seen and read for what feels like. You know how sometimes they say that when you're just miserable with your life, like hours can turn into days, days can turn into months, months into years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it has no real relation to anything I was saying. I'm just asking if you heard of that.
I understand what you're getting at because court is in session, and you know, there's only one word, though, that can snap us out of our malaise, a word that we haven't seen enough or heard enough in recent weeks.
Oh, God.
And that word is hamburger.
Oh, for the love of God.
Shugga quack quack. That's right. Here at the old HTF studios in beautiful
and serene.
Luxurious and serene Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
In Ho Ho Loon Plaza, no less.
That's right. Ho Ho Loon Plaza. We really haven't talked enough about the wonderful workmanship that went into this plaza.
Yeah, I mean, once he had enough free time after his release from WWE, he clearly built this beautiful plaza. And
he not only built the plaza, Nick, but he named it after himself.
Well, you know, Greg, that shouldn't really be that uncommon for you, given your employment at Troy University. That should be a practice that you're pretty accustomed to.
So, if you're listening to this show,
Greg is actually using the Janice Hawkins microphone while sitting in the Jack Hawkins chair.
Stop it!
And pulled up to the Douglas Hawkins desk.
No, none of that. Stop it. So,
did I ever tell you about the time, Greg, by the way, that I was forced to do a man on the street story about gas prices when I was working in Troy, and I came across a man who, I shit you not, his name was Hawkins.
First of all, that sounds fake.
He showed me his damn driver's license. His parents named him Hawk.
I'm legally obligated not to talk about any of this stuff. But hey, last week we had a very interesting show, and I thought it was a very fun show where we continued Walking Dead month, which this is. We talked about the worst characters in Walking Dead history.
We did.
And in the course, we also learned a great deal about each of our panelists for that episode. Jennifer Smith joined us, and we learned, for instance, that Nick Duke hates women, minorities, and children.
Now, wait just a minute. That the minorities and women part is not true.
Well, your list indicated it. Let's look at what we had on your list last week, Nick. A black guy.
Yes.
Okay. Several women. And several.
Wait a minute. Just one woman.
A woman. Okay. A black guy, a woman, and several children or younger.
Well, two small children, and then like a high schooler.
Yeah, children. They're still children. If they're under the age of 18, they're still children.
Fair enough, I suppose.
Not one older white man on your list. Wonder why that could be.
Because I'm a fan of Dale, quite frankly. And Herschel gives sage advice.
Perhaps you're a fan of certain other individuals that have certain amounts of power right now.
Well, You keep spreading that fake news, Greg. I would expect no less from you.
You didn't like it when I flipped your catchphrase on you a couple weeks ago.
You are dropping rumor and innuendo right now that is complete bullshit. You and the Dave Meltzers of the world just making shit up.
Nick, who's your least favorite people, and why is it women?
It's not. It's children. I thought we'd established that. Look at the list. 3 of the 5 were under the age of 18.
Let the record show, unlike me, Nick is actually a parent.
Yes.
So.
I love my own children. I am just generally not fond of the other children.
Just a few weeks ago, Nick, you put your children beneath football, wrestling, and comic books.
That's not true.
You said, they aight.
Well, you know.
In any event, we are here to continue Walking Dead month, and much to our pleasure and excitement, this is the Longbook Hunters, where we take a look at the printed page, comic books, graphic novels, things of that nature. And for Walking Dead month, we decided to pick up where we left off exactly 1 year ago.
We sure did, Stevie.
We read last year The Walking Dead Volume 1, Days Gone By.
Days gone by.
I was thinking about that song. Days go by and still I think of you.
And see, I always have the Vel Johnson of it in the whatever the Vel Johnson of the situation can be is always at the forefront of my mind.
Everything's better when you Vel Johnson it.
That's true.
Anyway, that book, Days Gone By, was written by Robert Kirkman and penciled, inked, and toned by Tony Moore. But what we are here to do is to pick up with Volume 2, titled Miles Behind Us. And
did you know, Greg, that you can get to from any character that has appeared on The Walking Dead? Like if you're trying to get from Vel Johnson to any actor in the history of The Walking Dead, you can get there in just like 2 easy steps.
Okay, how's that?
Vel Johnson to Alan Rickman via Die Hard, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Rickman to Andrew Lincoln via Love Actually, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And there you are.
That's really good. That is very, very good. Unfortunately, there's no Reginald Vel Johnson to be found in The Walking Dead Volume 2, Miles Behind Us.
Oh, there is not.
And to be fully disclosed, I am reading the deluxe edition, Walking Dead, Book 1. So this is technically Chapter 2 of Book 1 of the deluxe edition. But we are reviewing it this way because this is how you can find the trades at your local comic book shops,
right?
At your local bookstores,
right? Or
my favorite, what have you. But yeah, so we're picking up with Volume 2, and there are a couple of interesting changes. Really, one major change between Book 1 and Book 2 that we should address, and that is at some point during this time. And Nick, I have, in full disclosure, I have not researched this, so I probably shouldn't have even brought it up. But Tony Moore and Robert Kirkman had something of a falling out at some point, and Moore departs The Walking Dead after the first volume and is replaced by Charlie Adlard, who does pencils and inks, and Cliff Rathburn, who does the gray tones, and helps kind of flesh out. I mean, this is a black and white book, as was the first volume, and so he helps kind of flesh out some of the depth of the images and things like that. This picks up right after the death of Shane. Now, I don't think this is too much of a spoiler. If you're listening to us during Walking Dead month, you've probably seen the show. You've probably seen what happens to Shane there. But yeah, Shane dies in the first volume, and we complained last time about how quickly his story arc was resolved, and the unsatisfactory manner in which his character was developed. Hence why he made my list last week. We pick up sometime after that with a flashback scene to a scene that became famous in the show from very early on, which is the flashback of the time that Lori and Shane first made love. We don't know if they ever did again after that. And it gets the book off to what I feel is an appropriate start, Nick, because it is a god-awful scene.
Yeah, it is just, it's brutal. And as is the hallmark of this entire series, as we covered last year, and as I'm sure we'll beat about the head and neck area throughout this podcast. Part of the problem is the least subtle dialogue in the history of modern comics.
Mm-hmm. We're going to get to this eventually anyway, so I'm just going to come out front and say it before we delve into maybe some of the specific examples here. But the best way I can describe it as is that it's written as if it were a comic book in the early 70s or late 60s, but without thought bubbles. Because instead of thought bubbles, everyone just says what they're thinking and feeling at a given time. And as a result, it's this very non-nuanced, subtle way of speaking. Everything is overt in The Walking Dead. You don't have to guess about double meanings behind things because people will explain that there's a double meaning behind it if there is one. I'm looking at this very expository dialogue as for instance, Shane walks up to Lori, and this might not bother me, Nick, in a superhero comic, oddly enough, but in this it really does because it's trying to be this grounded, realistic, quote unquote, type thing. He walks up to Lori and he says, "Carl's fast asleep in the car. It's the first time he slept since we hit the road 2 days ago." Like, if I wrote that in a creative writing class, most likely the professor would slash off the 2 days ago because, it's not like, "Hey, Nick, when we talked yesterday on the phone and had the conversation
it's because early on in this book, and honestly it continues for many volumes because I've read several volumes at this point, but Kirkman struggles with telling stories in any sort of subtle way. So if he wants you to know the timing of a sequence, he just comes out and has a character plainly state it, even though no one talks like this. I know that's been a hang-up for many with stuff like Kevin Smith's comics work, but I would argue there are more people who talk like a Kevin Smith book than people who talk like a damn Robert Kirkman book, because it is as plain and straightforward speech as you can find. And it does not let up. It just grows increasingly frustrated over the course of this entire novel, graphic novel, which covers like 130 pages.
It's like it was written for children in the early 70s, except that frequently he'll throw in the word, "God damn it." Everybody says it. Everybody in the book. It's like their one go-to curse is GD it over and over and over and over and over and over again. To the point, sometimes multiple times within the same couple of pages, with the only difference being sometimes it's spelled as one word, and occasionally, if they're really emphatic, it'll be spaced out as two separate words.
And, here's an example, Greg, a little bit further on in the book. Right after we see that flashback scene, we flash forward to everybody in the group standing around Shane's makeshift grave. They're having some sort of funeral scene for it. And Lori, rather than being in mourning, spits on Shane's grave. That should signify to the reader that Lori is upset. Everyone should know that. She's mad at Shane. Everybody should know she's mad at the situation. But that's not enough, because we have to have the character of, I believe it's Alan, say, "Lori, she's taking it harder than the rest of us, I guess. With the trip down here, him taking care of her and Carl, she trusted him. We all did." We all know that. We just read the first freaking volume. You don't have to have characters plainly restate it. It is one of numerous instances we're going to call out throughout this experience where I don't know why Kirkman is writing the things that he writes. It's like he doesn't trust himself to be a storyteller.
I was going to suggest he doesn't trust the artists, because in a comic book, so many times the subtleties are handled by the artist. By the way a character's facial expression is drawn, by the way a gesture is made. But it's almost like Kirkman doesn't trust his artists enough to tell this story and feels that he needs to take what they are drawing and explain to the reader what they are drawing.
We also have, Greg, one panel later, I'm sorry, but we have Rick in the middle of the zombie apocalypse where we've seen multiple people be brutally killed already. He says, this shit we're in is not to be taken lightly. No fucking hell it's not to be taken lightly. Your friends are dying left and right.
Here's another one of your favorite lines, Nick, that you actually called out on Facebook a few weeks ago from the very second page. Lori says, and Rick, 3 weeks he's been in that coma. He doesn't even know this has happened, and we left him to come here for this.
Well, no shit, he's not with you, and he's in a coma. How is he going to know anything? Good Lord.
3 weeks he's been in that coma. Like, telling somebody who knows that he's been in the coma.
Oh.
It's like, again, if this was like a 1991 JLA comic, I wouldn't really have any issue with that. But this is attempting to be mature and adult and all this other stuff. And then, here's my favorite, Nick. So Shane and Lori start making out on this hill, and she's talking about her husband who's in the coma, and Shane grabs her and they kiss each other, and then Shane starts to apologize, and she goes, don't apologize, Shane, I need you, and then, as if it's an early 90s soap opera, he throws her to the ground and he goes, oh Lori, I've wanted this for so long, and then they make love. I've wanted this for so long. And she's fine with that. She's perfectly fine with him admitting that he's wanted to screw her for a long time, even though she's married to his best friend.
The important thing is that sometimes you don't always have to fuck her hard, Greg.
In fact, sometimes that's not right to do.
That's true.
But in this case, they felt it was right to make some love.
And fucking give her some smooches, too.
It's really never made apparent why she's so angry at Shane. I guess maybe because he tried to kill her husband, but she didn't seem too concerned about her husband earlier on, you know?
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
I mean, with everything else being overly explained, Nick, I halfway expected it to be explained in dialogue.
She's also probably upset because Shane not just tried to kill her husband, but tried to kill the best man that any of the group has ever known. Because once again, folks, if you heard our show last year, the fine tradition of every character telling Rick how great he is, it continues on into this volume.
Oh, yes. We get characters from Alan to Lori herself to, most prominently, Dale.
Yes.
Whose whole purpose appears to be, in this book, to screw Andrea and to tell and reassure Rick how great he is. And not just to tell and reassure Rick, but to tell other characters how great Rick is. Like, honestly, like they make the whole subplot about Dale and Andrea hooking up, but I really feel like maybe Dale had eyes for Rick. What do you think, Nick?
That's a possibility. I like to think that Dale got his inspiration from Jeff Jarrett, and instead of ain't I great, it was ain't Rick great.
Ain't Rick great. And then he goes... This is the best. This is the best.
We're even 4 pages in, by the way, folks. We're like,
yes.
If you like this comic, you might as well just go ahead and turn the podcast off, because we are just going to rip it to shreds for probably the next half hour. It's brutal.
Rick knocks on Dale's RV door and says, "How is she doing?" And Dale, referring to Andrea, and Dale goes, "Better, but it's going to be a long time before the poor girl is back to normal." And then they have this little conversation, and Rick asks, "Do you think any of us will be normal?" And here's what Dale says: "After today, not really. And speaking of which, and I'm not saying this to say I told you so, I saw this coming. Shane's been changing since you arrived. I think he was in love with your wife." To which Rick responds, "I know. The things he was rambling about. There was nothing to indicate that in the previous volume. Okay? The things he was rambling about before he tried to shoot me. That's all that makes sense." So then Dale says, "What I'm getting at is that everyone in the camp was starting to get weary of Shane. The attacks, Amy, Jim. We are ready to move this camp, Rick, and we let Shane call the shots because he was a cop. I'm an old man. Glenn's a kid. Alan, well, he's not leadership material. We need someone to look up to, someone to make us feel safe, especially
someone to take us into their arms and rub their stubble against our face from time to time at night.
Someone to rock us to sleep, someone to tuck us in, someone to just really make us feel comfortable every day.
Someone who will make sweet love to us and then cuddle with us afterwards and whisper it's all going to be all right.
Especially the women, Rick." I talked to everyone earlier. We think that someone is you. To which Rick's response is amazing. It's not like, oh, I don't know. It's not like, well, interesting. He's like, okay then.
It's essentially, all right, then.
All right, then. Get some sleep. We're moving camp tomorrow. Been here long enough as it is.
Now I want a literal adaptation of The Walking Dead with Carl Childers as Rick.
I better hang back. Let her catch up. We'll talk later. Over French fried potatoes. That boy Carl, he lives inside his own heart. Speaking of which, how old is Carl?
I'm gonna guess
he's drawn to look like he's about 8 or 9, but he talks like he's about 4 or 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I would think 7 or 8, but it's hard to tell visually, and that's one thing. You know, you mentioned the shift in artists, and I got to say,
downgrade.
Neither of us were huge fans of the first volume, but I didn't realize how much I was gonna miss Tony Moore's art until I started reading this volume. In my opinion, the swap to Charlie Adler is a massive step down. Massive. You know, at least Tony Moore was very detail oriented and had a lot of finer details about the art, which you kind of need in a black and white book when you don't have the colors there to help you distinguish. But one of the things you notice as you read this, other than very noticeable things like beards or not beards, a lot of the facial structures for the characters are the same. There are moments when, unless the characters are you know, in a close zoom on their face, if they're standing side by side, I have a hard time telling characters like Alan apart from Rick, or you know, without the bucket hat, I don't know that I would be able to tell Dale apart from somebody like Herschel. I mean, it's like he has a young person design, a middle-aged person design, and an old person design, and does not deviate much from those designs outside of perhaps hair color.
And God bless anyone who can tell Carol apart from Andrea.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
They're drawn exactly the same, to me anyway, to my eyes. I can't tell who's who. There are multiple instances in this volume where there's characters that are on screen. Like, for instance, there's a recurring subplot where Glenn is sad about something. Yes. And we're not really clear what he's sad about until the end of the book. But they keep showing these...
And we can't be clear until he plainly states what he's sad about.
Exactly. And so there are moments with the spoiler alert, Glenn is sad because he's got a secret crush on Carol, who is into Tyrese. Can
we jump on that for a minute? I don't mean to keep interrupting you here, but I know there are a lot of people who are big fans of the comic who complain about every little change the television show makes. Can we all just dispense with that here and acknowledge the fact that television show Carol is approximately, I don't know, infinity times more interesting than comic book Carol, who has no character other than wanting to sleep with Tyrese?
Not just wanting to sleep with Tyrese, but wanting to sleep with Tyrese from the moment she sees him.
Yes.
I believe like everybody's making their introductions to him, and then she goes, "Hey, you're so hard on the eyes," and he goes, "Right back at you, Carol," and then they bone.
That's it. So, that's what they do.
That's her character arc.
Yep. And what a journey she goes on.
So what was I even talking about? I can't even remember. Oh yeah, the facial. So there's Glenn's sad about something, and one of the problem with it is the first time he gets sad, it's as a result of something that Carol says, where she pays him a compliment, but then she cuddles next to Tyrese, and so you're like, oh, maybe there's something there. But the next time they show the Glenn sad face, it just shows the silhouette of two characters holding hands. But the two characters it shows in the panel before that were Rick and Lori. So my thought was it was Rick and Lori holding hands. But apparently it was supposed to be Andrea and Tyrese holding hands. So, I'm sorry, not Andrea, Carol and Tyrese holding hands. I got them confused again. So, again, visual cues missing, facial structures very similar to one another. Again, you can't really be subtle in the art because all the faces that aren't and the other thing, all the faces that aren't the prominent faces in the foreground are blurry and impossible to distinguish in the background. It's like the opposite of like a John Byrne or a George Perez, who were masters at the background details. Charlie Adlard appears to be, he draws well. Like his his images are purdy and whatnot, but they're not distinctive. You can't separate the men and the women from one another except by what they're wearing, which, thank God that Dale has that hat,
Yes.
or else we'd really be screwed.
And I think Lori has, what is it, the plaid kind of deal that she wears pretty often.
Yes,
So,
yes. There's also, although there is a funny screw up near the end regarding plaid, where when they're on the farm, one of Herschel's daughters is wearing plaid, and the other one is wearing like just a regular jacket, and the one that is wearing plaid is shown getting bitten at one point, even though it's supposed to be the one wearing the jacket. But just a minor.
And later on in the book, and I can't even remember why it happens, but there, for some reason, Rick wraps some sort of bizarre plaid headscarf around himself. I don't know if you remember that or not, Greg.
Yes, I do remember that. And in a rare instance of the book not explaining something, we're never really given any indication as to why that happened.
It was a good fashion statement.
Because it would help separate him from the other characters.
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
Oh, good. Sofa. Mason Verger would be an awesome zombie in The Walking Dead, by the way.
Mason Verger would be a great primary antagonist for The Walking Dead for like a month,
yes.
like a season.
Absolutely. Can you imagine Verger's enemy meetings with Rick? I mean, it would be phenomenal.
Cordeal will show you out.
Cordale.
Cordale.
Oh, man. Well, we mentioned him earlier. I know you have some thoughts on Comic Book Glenn.
Comic Book Glenn, yeah. Like, and I know you say that I have thoughts on Comic Book Glenn, but Greg, it's kind of the same thoughts as pretty much everybody in the book. Like, characters, ideally should be more than just the actions they take. They should have some sort of motivation, some sort of internal logic about them that separates them from each other. And rather, these characters in The Walking Dead are all mostly the same, other than different things happen to each one along the way. There are no real defining characteristics. They all react to situations virtually the same way.
Virtually the same.
They none of them really bring anything unique to the group, other than perhaps Tyrese, who they make a big deal out of being very strong, and Rick just being the best human being possible. Everybody else is just kind of mired in mediocrity, apparently. And, for another area where I feel like the television show is a massive improvement is in the area of Glenn. Glenn is somebody who had sarcasm on the television show, who had a general reason for being, a reason to exist on the television show. Whereas this version of Glenn, at least 13 issues in or whatever it is just a bland, generic, one-note character who happens to be Asian and happens to want to have sex, which is something all men in this book enjoy doing, by the way. So I'm like, that's it.
Everyone, at one point, one of the characters even remarks, everybody's pairing off with each other. And that's correct, because everyone in this damn book pairs off with one another and has sex.
Except for Herschel, which explains why he's about to lose his damn mind near the end of the book, I guess.
Oh, God. Oh, Lord.
Also, very disappointed that Otis wasn't fat here. Again, not to go back to the television show versus the comic thing, but I think a fat Otis is better than a skinny Otis, in my opinion.
Agreed. It would at least provide variety, because in this book, the only fat person dies.
Yes, she does.
Donna, the fat person who we're supposed to care about but don't, dies.
Well, we're supposed to care about her because she was giving blankets to people, Greg. That's her.
Right.
That's her defining characteristic.
Just a few issues after, in Volume 1, we saw her disapprove of the Dale and Andrea relationship because he's an old man and she's a young girl. She didn't approve of that. All of a sudden, she's fine with it. She sees them having sex, and she's like, you know what? Not bad.
Actually, Dale is actually a little bit chunkier here than his television counterpart.
That's true, but all of the girth that he lost in the TV show was picked up by his eyebrows.
I knew that was coming.
But yeah, so everybody has sex. I will say, I do want to pause to say something positive about the comic book.
Oh, wow, okay.
There are a very small number of positives I found.
Okay.
I do think Tyrese is very interesting in the comic book in that, in this entire volume, other than Herschel, he is the one character that actually says anything of any sort of doubt towards Rick.
I don't remember.
When Rick, it happens on the farm when Rick is basically yelling at Herschel about how Herschel's keeping these walkers alive. And Rick keeps pushing the issue, and finally Tyrese steps in and says, "Rick, we're guests here, man. We aren't making the rules. Just stop this." To which Rick replies, "You're right, Tyrese. I'm sorry." Which is another wild emotional shift that happens throughout this entire thing. But just the fact that Tyrese dared to tell Rick that he was in the wrong about something was remarkable to me.
Now, Rick, I understand you've never been wrong about anything before, but I suppose there's a first time for everything.
And the book also begats what we see later on the TV show, that iconic shot of Rick and Herschel leaning on a fence post looking at a pasture. But in this case, instead of giving sage wisdom, Herschel tells a boring story about his father owning the farm, and then yells at Rick. And
I just noticed, Greg, as I'm scrolling through these pages that I don't know if it's Adler doing it or if it's at the direction of Kirkman, but the Glenn is sad face is the same every time. He turns his head ever so slightly to one side, dips his head down, and his baseball cap covers exactly like half of his face in profile. And it's the same reaction every single time with no distinction whatsoever between each time it happens.
And then you've got Maggie, which they did pretty much directly adapt this scene for the TV show, just with some language differences. But you've got Maggie, whose entire character in this volume is offering to fuck Glenn.
Yes, in those exact terms.
Yes, I'll fuck you. I'll fuck you. If that's what you're after, I'll fuck you.
That's what we need is a Lecterverse Walking Dead crossover. Buffalo Bill, the Red Dragon,
Mason Verger. You're involved in the zombie apocalypse is what you are.
Oh,
Rick didn't father the baby because Shane did.
And Ray Liotta's character from Hannibal to use certain lines on Lori and tell her what exactly she is that I don't need to repeat on the air.
Oh man, and it would even be believable for him to eat brains in this universe.
It would be.
I really like it. We can have multiple MIGs show up as, I don't know.
I think multiple MIGs would actually be very popular in the Walking Dead universe, given all the sex that's going on. His skills would probably come in handy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And interestingly enough, whereas at one point Donna is not comfortable having sex because children are nearby, that doesn't affect Tyrese and Carol at all.
Or the implication being Rick and Lori either.
That's true. Or the daughter of Tyrese and her boyfriend.
Yeah, I actually know where that's going. I don't want to spoil anything for year 3 of Walking Dead month, but it's not what you think it is. Put it that way.
Ooh. So we get a lot of the one thing is, I'll say Carl is not annoying in this book.
No, Carl mostly stays off to the side, like I would argue most children should do.
I would argue that perhaps I'm just trying to put myself in Kirkman's shoes. Perhaps there were opportunities to have Carl tell his dad how great he is a few times.
There probably were.
He could have said, Dad, not only was that a good lesson you taught me, it's the best lesson, the biggest lesson. It's huge.
It's the best lesson anyone could ever teach another human being.
Rick should run for president.
Rick is probably in this universe. He is probably the resurrected Jesus Christ walking on earth.
God, and everybody just talks in such obvious damn language.
They really do.
I'm reading this right now. There's no green beans. There's no corn. Hell, we're almost out of everything. And then the other person goes, which I can't tell if it's Carol or Andrea, says, if only we could have grabbed the canned food out of that house before we left it. Jesus, what are we going to do?
Yeah, and I guess we should mention the plot, such as it is. After the events of the first volume, the group decides to head out for greener pastures, I suppose. They come across a subdivision. They start to go into the subdivision. Surprise, surprise, the subdivision's overrun with zombies. So they run away from the subdivision, Carl gets shot by Otis. They wind up on the farm, much like they do in the television show. Otis and Herschel trying to atone for Otis's mistake by letting them stay there. And then in the course of, what is it, like Greg, like 2 to 3 issues, the entire farm subplot plays out. They get there. They discover the walkers in the barn. They argue with Herschel. Shit goes south. Herschel kicks them all out. And then they discover the prison, all in the course of about 60 pages.
And remarkably, while that sounds like a lot happening, very little actually happens in the book. Honestly, There's a lot of sleeping. There's a lot of sex. Well, not really on-screen sex, so to speak. There's a lot of off-panel sex. There's a lot of sleeping. And there's a lot of driving.
And there's a lot of Donna getting bitten in the face by a zombie.
That's a good scene.
Yes,
that's one of my favorite scenes. A great art here.
Actually, I would argue that probably the whole like Alan dealing with the death of Donna thing, while not subtle, again in dialogue, is probably the best thing that this.
The most compelling, absolutely. That was by the end of the comic, I was like, man, I want to see what Alan's doing again, because I felt like again there was a hook to his character.
Right.
There was something intriguing going on in his life besides talking to Rick about things, we weren't given any reason to really care about Herschel. We weren't given any reason to care about his kids at all. None of them had a character, in fact. They're barely there. They show up to die. So, and the other people in the RV, Carol's a nothing character that just wants to bone Tyrese. Mm-hmm. Tyrese is fairly interesting. Carl's barely there. Lori is just as much of a bitch as she is in the comic or on the TV show. Andrea is barely around, and when she is, it's just her having sex with Dale.
Also, in this version of the Walking Dead universe, as opposed to just having like 3 kids, Herschel apparently has like 9 kids or something.
Herschel is the Stu Hart of the Walking Dead. In fact, now I want to reread.
Herschel sired a baseball team, an orchestra if you count the bastards.
Now I want to also Alan with the worst reveal of another parent's death to the children ever. Where's mommy? She's dead.
How about it?
Dead.
How about it?
Now I want to reread all of Herschel's lines as Stu Hart. Thanks,
Greg?
Rick. I hope we don't get a lot of use out of them.
Greg, you may have just stumbled onto quite the idea, my friend. Quite the idea, indeed.
Where's the first big fight between Rick and Herschel? Oh, so many great. Every fight because people's emotions just wildly swing between yelling and very calm, and yelling and very calm. It's like somebody listened to a Nirvana album and tried to put the pace of their songs to a conversation. Loud, soft, loud, soft, loud. Awful stuff here. I'm trying to. That's not the point. I don't want their house to be destroyed. You just can't. That's not what I meant. I didn't mean. What's going on? And then they fight over it. Just. And can I be honest, Nick? I don't know about you, but I thought Rick was being entirely unreasonable in this entire farm chapter, where you're just expecting this guy who never invited you to his home, who you went to his home to try to save the life of your son, and expecting him to invite you to stay with him forever.
I would agree that he was being unreasonable in that aspect, but I don't think he was being unreasonable in asking them to kill the walkers, or in taking target practice in the general direction of a house that is no longer occupied. Like those two things, I think Herschel was overreacting, but I absolutely fall on Herschel's side of the. You're not just going to invite a group of like 15 people to live with you. It's not like there's, unlimited resources anymore.
That's true. I can understand them. I agree with Rick about keeping the walkers in the barn. We see how that plays out, but I think there's ways to handle it better than the way that he tries to handle it here, and trying to not understand where Herschel's coming from. And then, of course, just Don't even get me started on Lori's ass. Good Lord. Good Lord.
Also, do Glenn and Maggie go from, hi, my name's Maggie, I'll fuck you, to we're in love in the course in like an issue? Is that what I'm led to believe?
We're not showing them falling in love.
No, it's just we're in love.
That's the other thing about this book. It is impossible to tell the passage of time.
Right. I have no idea like how long this book takes up, because they go from like Carl being on his deathbed to him up and running around in the course of like what feels like 12 pages. I have no idea how much time passes. And it'll be like characters will be mid-conversation and it'll be daytime, and then it will just randomly swap to night and they'll pick up with a different conversation and with no indication of how much time has actually passed. Is it just, a half a day to get you to nighttime? Is it 2 days, 3 days? Nobody knows.
Herschel has just lost all of his children except for one. I'm sorry, except for three, because he's got 100 in this comic book. He's just lost his son and his daughter.
One of his sons and one of his daughters.
And his son was just eaten and killed by one of his other sons who had already turned into a zombie. Here is how Lori decides to confront him after all of this when she finds out he's not going to let them stay with him. You're throwing us out? Why? What the hell did we do? Okay, I got
What did we do, damn it?
You are throwing us out? Why? What the hell did we do, damn it? How can you let us stay here for weeks and then just turn us away? You mean by keeping... And he says, well, I never invited you to live here. I'm letting you stay here while your son heals. I don't have enough food to feed all of us long term. I have to look out for my family. You mean by keeping a damn barn full of zombies next door? Or do you mean you're going to start looking out for your family from now on? If we hadn't been here and given you our extra guns, you'd all be dead right now. But you're going to kick us out? And he goes, what do you want from me? I saved your boy's life and I lost two of my own. Haven't I given you people enough? Where you didn't kill your kids. If anyone here is responsible for that, it's you and your stupidity. Now, Nick, I'm not going to say that I'm advocating the action that Herschel prepares to take there. But my God.
Oh, this is definitely a Southern set book. Let's put it that way.
Good Lord, have mercy. I mean, that's how you talk to just like showing you guys mercy. And,
I'm at least glad to see that comic book Lori's bitchiness carried over into the television show.
Oh, it was brilliantly cast and converted over. Absolutely, phenomenally transported. I will say I thought the last chapter here was the best. I was really I kind of dug, other than the wild emotional swings that didn't really make sense.
And the last chapter had them being kicked off the farm and then like 4 pages later finding their new sanctuary. Like there was no real time of struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Up until that point, I was fine with it, I guess. I mean, but saying it's the best chapter is the faintest
praise.
I mean, it's the faintest of praise. This is. Let's have a frank discussion, Greg. You and I have talked about this offline, so let's bring it to the air.
Are we talking ballpark, Frank?
There's no accounting for tastes, first of all. So I understand that my taste is not everybody's taste, but I genuinely do not understand how this comic became so popular. Because you have to understand that this came out in 2003 or 2004, whenever the first issue hit, for Image Comics, at a time when Image Comics was not the Image Comics that we know and love today, meaning an extremely small print run, and that this had to be picked up, bought, and enjoyed enough to help it begin the massive snowball of popularity that resulted in the pop culture phenomenon you see today. And my question is, how and why did this happen?
Why?
It is utterly baffling to me in every respect. I find, outside of Tony Moore's art in the first 6 issues, I find almost nothing redeemable about these first 12. It is among the worst modern comics I've read, in my opinion.
Yeah, I share many of those sentiments, and I've had these unpopular opinions about this series for many, many years, and have only occasionally given them utterance because I don't like to shit on something that other people enjoy. But this is really a tough one for me because I see it given there's two things that have really soured me on, or changed my mind about speaking my mind about this comic. The first of all is how much praise it's given, which that's fine, whatever. There's lots of comics giving praise that I don't like. But the main thing is the vast number of people online that will bash the show, and particularly and specifically bash the writing of the show, which is fine. You can do that. But then to compare it unfavorably to the comics and say, well, the comics did it better, or that's not how it happened in the comics, or sorry, I'll enjoy the real story by reading the comics. Well, yes, you might enjoy the real story, but you're also going to enjoy an inferior one.
Yes, it is. I would really like to know what it is that our listeners, if there are any, enjoy about this book. And I don't mean you picked it up because you liked the show and you've talked yourself into liking it. Is there anybody out there who read the book first and actually enjoyed it? I would be fascinated to hear their feedback, because it's just brutal, man. It's brutal in nearly every respect.
What if I can attempt to explain the popularity as best I can understand it? When this book came out, there really wasn't the zombie mania that there was several years later. This was almost carving out a genre that, or not carving it out, it had been done before, but it was taking up a genre that had not really been done in comics. A genre that was probably underserved in pop culture. There had just been around this time the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake, the movie 28 Days Later.
Yeah, 28 Days Later with
Days Later, which I've never seen, but was apparently somewhat of a hit and a successful movie that people liked. So I think that got people interested in zombies again a little bit, and the fact that there was a comic book that was kind of exploring the zombie world, which hadn't really been explored since the days of George A. Romero. So,
but are the zombies enough? Because the art's not very good, and the characters are poorly written, and the dialogue sucks. So, like,
I think that the if you look at it, if you look at the architecture of this story, I think there's a good story there, which is what you see in the TV show.
Right.
The things that happen are interesting. The positions you put characters in are interesting, but they're just not fully realized or fleshed out because of, and now he may have improved since then for all I know. But in this version of Robert Kirkman is not a very skilled writer at all. And it's obvious, like to me anyway, like, whether you're a writer yourself or whether you just read a lot, it's obvious his storytelling deficiencies. And particularly when it comes to, it really comes to a lot of things, pacing, dialogue in particular, which is just brutal to get through. And unlike some superhero comics that have clunky dialogue, there's just not enough going on to distract from it. You can have clunky dialogue if you've got the Flash running a race against Superman to save the world.
Right.
You can't have
stunning visuals, thrilling action, something, some kind of.
You can't have clunky dialogue if you've got 7 characters we've never really encountered before sitting around a campfire talking to each other.
Right. And all looking the same because your artist isn't visually distinctive when it comes to character designs.
And a bunch of shots of people having sad looks on their faces. Like, God almighty. It's just so, the dialogue just actively frustrates me, Nick. Yes. It makes me angry to read it sometimes because I'm just like, I understand it. I understand that the RV is out of gas and that's why you're siphoning gas off. It is back in the RV. You don't need to tell me that you need to siphon the gas to put it in the RV to allow the RV to run.
It is very rare that I find myself actually thinking that I could write better dialogue than a comic writer, but I'm fairly sure I could write better dialogue than Robert Kirkman does in this volume.
Nick, if just a copy editor could help this tremendously.
Yes.
Just to come in and take one of Rick's long, winding, unrealistic speeches and just cut it down to about half of what it is would make the book so much better.
Or just occasionally use images to tell the story. Like,
right.
Every once in a while, that's not such a bad thing.
I'm looking at this page. Oh gosh, only there's a page number here, but there's not a page number listed. It's after they leave Herschel's farm. They run out of gas in the RV, and Rick gives them a speech. And I'm looking at the word balloons now, and it's like Charles Dickens or something. Like, It's like it just goes on and on and on and on and on over the course of like there's 5 panels here, and in those 5 panels, I would say 65% is word, which is not a good ratio for a comic book. Typically, we're out of gas and we haven't seen any cars for a while. He's telling people who have been there in the RV with him,
who know if they've seen cars or not. Like, you could have done this and had a panel of the RV driving and not showing any cars, and then them finally stopping. Like, you could have. It is a classic example of wanting to tell rather than show, but it continues for the entirety of the volume, and to this point of what we've read anyway, Greg, the entirety of the series.
And you get awesome, hilarious exchanges like this. Finally, some alone time, I use in my Matthew Lesko Dale voice. Don't get any ideas. I'm starving. We're not doing anything until we find some food. If I could get away with it, I'd gnaw a piece off of you. Funny girl. You kids these days, I just don't get your humor. Now that, I had no problem with their relationship until that line, because now I'm creeped out.
Kids today.
Yeah, well, you kids today, you just don't get stretched enough.
Yeah, take you back into the RV
And stretch you.
and stretch you.
It'd be good. One. Nostrils. Real Feinbaum's nostrils. I like Real Feinbaum. Nostrils are good.
You got a bald head.
Squeeze it. You don't just say you fit a slick bald head in anything.
Can we be done yet?
Jim McElwain. Brett Bielema.
Kevin Sumlin. Gus Malzahn.
Butch Jones.
Butch Jones.
Woo! It's a 15-week.
Big pop. Everyone applaud for Greg getting it right. No one gives a shit.
No one cares. Our Feinbaum jokes will never be appreciated.
They'll never be respected. No matter how many sniffs we do. No matter how many grim smirks we give into the camera.
No matter how many Owen voices we use for situations that don't merit it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you watched the Arkansas game the other day, I mean, that was just pathetic performance. That was, if you're in Fayetteville, you know, our heart goes out to you right now, quite frankly. Of course, left your team in another city, apparently. But that's not half of what's going on with Jim McElwain. Well, yeah, I can't really think of too much else to say here. I didn't care for the art distinctiveness-wise. The faces are interesting and everything like that, but it's just like, gosh, in a book that is so poorly written, the art needs to be better, in my opinion. And that's not I can't draw, but I'm just saying, compared to what Tony Moore was doing in the first volume, it's much less distinctive. It's much less energetic and kinetic, in my opinion. Oh, gosh. Were there any parts of this that you did like, Nick? I talked about Tyrese. No. I talked about, you know, the little bit at the farm. I thought Herschel's arc was his arc was written well, even if his swings of emotion were odd.
My favorite part was when it ended and I didn't have to read it anymore.
Did you like it when Rick said, "I'll kill you, I'll fucking kill you"?
No.
Took up the whole page?
No.
Did you like it when every other character says, "God damn it," over and over again?
No.
Oh, I'm trying to find that exchange I was telling you about earlier where Rick and Herschel are yelling at each other and they exchange "God damn it's," but there's one of them spaced out. Here we go. Here we go. I know those things are trying to kill us, and that the less of them there are out there, the safer we'll be, and I know it's not smart to have a mess of them penned up not 30 feet from your goddamn house. We should go in that barn right now and shoot every goddamn one of them in the head. It's not safe for them to be here. we need to kill them before they kill us. To which Herschel replies, my son is in there. God damn it. The worst. The worst. Overuse of the term. I'm not even fond of using the term myself, but good Lord have mercy. That's overkill. Come up with another curse. Mix it up a little bit. I edit myself every day, and I get frustrated if I have to use the same word twice in a matter of one story, much less 3 lines of dialogue. Too much, Nick. Too much.
That's because it's shittily written, Greg, as we've... I just don't know what else I can say. But don't read it. Don't buy it. Don't borrow it. Just don't waste your time with it. It's awful. And the only good thing it has given us is the television show and the Telltale video game.
The one thing that I will say, though, Nick, is if you do decide to read it, you actually won't waste much time because it takes about, and this is me talking, the slowest reader in the world, it takes about, to get through an entire volume, it took me a night.
Right, because you can skim because all the dialogue is so damn obvious. Like, you're not having to look for subtext in any of this.
Right. It's like you'll see somebody crying, and then the next person will come to them and say, hey, you're crying. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, that person is crying.
How about it?
How about it?
I'll be damned. They are crying. Look at there. Tears.
My God, Herschel does have a barn. That's what that is. That's what that barn-like structure is in the background. Oh, anyway.
You do have a hammer, Tyrese. There it is. You're holding it in your hand. It's a hammer.
And it's done you just fine to this part.
Yes.
Fine like this.
Fine like this. My Lord.
I am certain we're going to get some feedback to this. I'm sure some will not like what we had to say, but this is our unfiltered opinion, and you do have a right to your opinion, ladies and gentlemen. You can tell us how wrong we are, even if we're right. And you know what the best way is to do that?
By tweeting at JR's BBQ.
That's right. Tweet us at JR's BBQ. Or drop us a line in the comments section of the internet's loneliest website, jrsbarbq.com. And let us know your thoughts on our thoughts on The Walking Dead. And if you want to talk about anything else, you can contact us on our burner accounts on Twitter. I am at gphillips8652. He is at Nick Duke 87. We can both be reached theoretically at gregp@placetobenation.com, Nick D at placetobenation.com. We would invite you in all seriousness to join the Facebook Place to Be Nation comics page. Go to your Facebook window or your app, type into the search bar, the search menu, whatever you will call it. Type in Place to Be Nation Comics. Should pull up our group. Join, discuss. We'll have a good, grand old time talking all about The Walking Dead. And if you believe Kirkman to be a strong writer, please provide us with some examples that would prove us wrong. And by provide us with examples, I mean literally give us examples of it, because we're not going to buy them. So
no.
That being said, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we are going to hit you with our usual weekly segments here. And we'll get you ready for next week's conclusion to Walking Dead month, where we will review the season premiere of The Walking Dead. So stay with us through the break. We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which, of course, includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlayStation.com, and we offer those to you on 3 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the original Place to Be podcast, as well as Main Event, Lucha Afterground, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows, as well as the Our Vantage Point podcast and Jeff Learns Wrestling. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver quick-hit pod blasts on topics old and new.
Over on the Pro Wrestling Only feed, we dive deep inside the wrestling business with a stacked army of experts leading the way. The feed features potpourri shows such as This Week in Wrestling, Greetings from Allentown, Psychology is Dead, Puro Potpourri, Stacy and Elliot's Bogus Journey, and the Military Industrial Suplex. We also have shows that focus intently on certain topics like Letters from Center Stage, Space City, and NWA Classics on Demand Adventure, Through the Years, Strong Style History, Strong Style Story, and Mount Olympus. Plus, the feed has the full archives of legendary shows like Titans of Wrestling, Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Kayfabe, and much more. And on our popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Rank and File, PTB and Dadcast, Go Home in a Box, NBA Team, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with the Hard-Traveling Fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversation, Geek and Sassy, and Imaginary Stories podcasts.
You can find all of these current shows plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to all of our feeds on iTunes, and while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon when shopping online, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, TheHistoryOfWrestling.com, and Scott Keats' Blog of Doom. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
I didn't want to believe you. You told me there was no cure, that these people were dead, not sick. I chose not to believe that. But when Shane shot Lou in the chest, and she just kept coming, that's when I knew what an ass I'd been. That Annette had been dead long ago, and I was feeding a rotten corpse. That's when I knew there was no hope. And when that little girl came out of the barn, the look on your face, I knew you knew it too. Right? There is no hope. And you know it now, like I do. Don't you?
We're back, folks, and we've got no time to waste because for the first time in a long time, we've actually got some substance here to your weekly segment in ours, reading and watching.
What you been reading and watching?
Now,
Greg, what's your favorite weekly segment, and why is it reading and watching?
it's a handsome young segment. And I'm going to go ahead and say I don't have anything that I've read. So, Nick, if you want to...
Nor do I. I'm still in the midst of football season, but loyal listeners, I promise you, with Georgia finally on an off week, and a little bit of working from home I'm going to be doing over the next couple of days, I am going to have some time to catch up on my reading, because I will be, when I work from home, I get an earlier start, so I'm off earlier, that old chestnut.
Right, sure.
Yes.
Working from home. Now, what we are going to do, though, is for the first time in a long time, we have got watching.
Yeah. Our stories are back.
Our stories are back, yes. Our stories are back, and we got to find out whether Victor and Sharon will finally commence their relationship. Or...
That, anyway, go ahead.
Oh, wrong stories. I'm sorry. But nonetheless, we are here to talk about the week of DC CW action. And it started off with the premiere, Nick, of Supergirl.
Yeah.
Which was kicking off a new season last week that promises to be something of a darker season than we've gotten used to from the Girl of Steel, the Maid of Might, the Woman of Wisdom.
Supergirl's cousin, or Superman's cousin, excuse me.
No, and I've gone cross-eyed.
Yeah.
What we got was what I thought was a pretty interesting kickoff to the new season.
I enjoyed it, man.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're going to talk about here over the course of this entire watching segment is I thought there were 2 CW shows that did a pretty good job of handling the fallout from their season finales, and I thought there were 2 that didn't do such a great job. And Supergirl was one of the ones that I thought did a really good job of making it seem like the season finale actually mattered. Yes, National City was going on about its business or whatever, but you really got the impression that Kara was dealing with a lot of stuff, that she was still very much affected by what happened to Mon-El and the choice she was forced to make. And I got to say, I really enjoyed this take on Kara. I don't think that, it's necessary to have all the characters in the CW verse be dark and mopey or whatever, but I would argue this is an instance where it's justified, and the writers did a really good job of, having it be logical why she would be acting that way. I was down for this, man. I really enjoyed this episode, actually.
And I will also say that in her, they wrote a very compelling scene. To me, the best scene in the episode was the confrontation between Kara and Alex.
Yes, I would agree.
In Kara's apartment. And the reason it was well written, and this is a hallmark of a truly greatly written scene, presenting a conflict between 2 characters, both of which you're supposed to like. I came out of that scene agreeing with both of them.
Yeah.
And seeing things from both of their perspectives.
Right. I agree.
At first, I thought it was going to be Alex lecturing Kara, which it kind of started out as. But then everything that Kara said back to Alex was true.
Yeah, it was. I agree. Absolutely. Other things of note that I feel like we should mention. Lena Luthor continues to be one of the most interesting characters on the show. I still have no idea where that character is going or what her ultimate dynamic is going to be with Kara. I know they continue to have...
I'm interested in finding out.
I am as well. But also, I know a lot of us kind of rolled our eyes at the end of last season about the teasing of this character, Rain. But given her introduction in the first episode here, I am really intrigued by where that's going.
Is that who that is?
Yes, apparently. I didn't know that until after the episode, but in the episode, there is a single mother character whose daughter looks up to Supergirl, whose daughter is caught in a compromising situation. She's trapped beneath a beam while Supergirl is trying to... what's she trying to do, Greg? Stop a missile or something like that?
Stop a missile from the character Bloodsport.
And so the mother finds this superhuman strength she never knew she had. And apparently after I Googled it, that actress is the one that's been cast as Rain. So apparently there's going to be some sort of slow transition for this character, and she's not going to know her true origin story and stuff. So I actually really dug that aspect of it, and it's got me very intrigued for where that's going. I like the new dynamic with Lena taking over ownership of Catco. I think that's really cool. And some of the sweetest words I've ever heard in a CW show with Snapper on sabbatical. Yes.
I would expect such a term or such a statement from an ex-journo like you.
Good Lord. If we could just find out wherever he went on sabbatical and ship James Olsen off there with him, Supergirl would be on the up and up again.
It would. I will say there were a couple of things that I didn't love in the episode.
Sure.
One thing that I didn't really like 100%, even though I like the actor and I like the character from the comics, I wasn't nuts about Morgan Edge.
Yeah,
I think it was a tad over the top.
Right. It was very mustache twirling, but I think because I generally like Adrian Pasdar so much in other things that he does, I was willing to give that a little bit of a pass, And it provides an interesting counterpoint to Lena, so that you have somebody who's kind of on her level, that can confront her, if as the business on the business side of the partnership, if we are going to have a more permanent alliance between Lena and Supergirl.
Right. It's giving the show kind of that role that Lex Luthor played in the John Byrne era of Superman. there was also an homage shot to Superman Returns, which I thought was interesting, where she flies up above and listens to the world below her. That's a scene right out of Superman Returns. Right. I only know that because I unfortunately watched it the other night.
Wait, but unfortunately, you've been a longtime defender of Superman Returns.
No. I've liked it less and less as time has worn on, and the issue with Superman Returns is like I still don't think it's as bad as some indicate that it is, but it is a movie that doesn't hold up very well at all, and
I've never disputed that the movie is well shot and like from an artistic standpoint, it's well made. I would just argue that it's boring as hell.
And that's fair. That is completely fair. It is. There's lots of long. That's one thing I noticed on this rewatch, because it's even worse on TV, because this is the first time maybe that I've seen it with commercials. And God Almighty, it took them 35 years just to get off, get out of the first act. I mean,
by the time the kid catches the piano, you just don't give a shit anymore, do you?
You don't care. But way before that, by the time Superman flies, I don't care anymore. The first 25 minutes of the movie is opening credits.
That's good. That's good.
Anyway, but we're not here to talk about that. So there were a couple little things here and there, a few little, character interactions. I loved the scenes with Hank and
the Alex Hank scene. I thought was outstanding.
Yes, tremendous.
Man, that was good. Yeah. So I would agree with you. There were definitely some bumps and bruises along the way, but overall, I thought this was a pretty good start to the season for Supergirl, and it kind of needed it coming off the lackluster close to season 2.
Agreed. Well, that brings us into with our on Tuesday night where we got a new lineup or is it a new lineup? I think they may have changed it last year. I can't remember.
Tuesday is on. Yeah, Flash was on Tuesday last year. And Arrow, I think, is the only one that really had a major change because if I remember correctly, Legends was on Thursdays and then moved back to Tuesdays, or maybe vice versa.
That's right.
I don't remember which one. But anyway, Flash.
So Flash kicked us off in the aftermath of last year's season finale, in which Barry Allen voluntarily went into the Speed Force to keep it from becoming unstable, and walked away from his life and left Central City behind to Team Flash. So we pick up several months after that in this episode, and we again matching what we started with Supergirl. We start off with a really nice action-packed scene where Wally, who is still Kid Flash, I would have thought he would have assumed the role of Flash by now, but he's still Kid Flash. Wally and Cisco are teaming up along with Joe to take on the character of Peekaboo, and who we've seen in previous seasons. And it's a nice action scene where they struggle for a little bit, and they end up, despite their struggles, they end up catching her. And pretty cool scene to establish things. And then they get jumped by a samurai robot, which, if that were the actual villain of the episode, or the actual villain per se behind everything, would have been very corny and not good in my opinion.
Yes.
Luckily, that's not the case. Right. And so not all is not what it appears to be. And so this villain demands to see the real Flash. Somehow he knows that Wally is not the real Flash and wants the original Flash back. Well, that that forces the team to coalesce and come up with a way to bring Barry out of the Speed Force. Now, we get Caitlin. She's in a weird situation now where she, when last we left her, she was going off to find herself again. And
the way you find yourself, of course, is by tending bar in a seedy part of town.
Exactly. I'm guessing that she found somebody that helped her control her powers and worked for him in his bar. But that remains to be seen how that all plays out. But needless to say, there's something going on with her, but she agrees to come back. She says she's Caitlin again, and she agrees to come back and help Cisco bring Barry back. And they bring him back. He's got the pretty funny amnesia story arc there, where he can't remember how to.
That's funny.
What's that?
Well, I mean, go ahead. I'll bring up my complaints with the episode here in a moment.
Yes. So they bring Barry back, and he can't remember who he is or how to talk or anything really in normal sentences. He's rambling about crazy things, and the team tries to fix things ultimately, Iris is the one that figures it out and knows that if she's put in mortal danger, Barry will snap out of it. And he does. He picks up a new costume that Cisco has designed for him, which, in keeping with the new costume designs from the last couple of years, is a brighter and more comic book-like costume. And he rescues Iris, defeat the
Samuroid,
and is able to reunite with Team Flash as it is. There's still issues with Caitlin, whatever big experience in the Speed Force, etc. But the team's back together. Barry looks like he's happy again. Looks like he's enjoying being the Flash again, which I'm a big fan of. And overall, it was a very, in my opinion, it was a very entertaining, funny, engaging episode, anchored by a great cast. Now, I will give you a chance to say what you liked about the episode, and then we can get into our issues with it.
I love seeing the original band back together. All we needed was a good dose of Tom Cavanaugh, and I think you've got that perfect mix, like you said, of the cast. I will agree that Julian from last season grew on me, but I really didn't miss him here, and I kind of liked not having him there to gum up the team chemistry, in my opinion. Same thing with Tracy. I thought she was an okay addition near the end of last season, but I didn't really miss her here either. And yeah, this one, it had its moments where it had some good humor, and it had a little bit of that classic Flash chemistry and formula that we grew to love over the first two seasons of the show, and a little bit, in season 3 as well. So it did definitely feel almost like a sort of reset button, if that makes any sense. I mean, Caitlin really, at this point, I know we don't really fully understand what Barry experienced inside the Speed Force just yet, and I'm sure that will be something that's revealed as the season goes along, but really, Caitlin is the only character who seems to kind of still be the worst for the wear at the moment, and so it's kind of cool to see the team reverted back to a happier state, which I know was a goal of the writing team and something that a section of the fan base had clamored for after the events of season 3.
Right. Now, on the downside, and where I think our issues come with this episode that keep me from showering it with praise, is we made a complaint last year in the season finale or season premiere rather, about how they seemingly burned through the Flashpoint storyline. You might say that they rushed through it. And I gotta say, I thought it was more of the same with this season premiere. I think the storyline of Barry being gone and in the Speed Force played out largely off screen in the months preceding the premiere episode. And while I understand it's called The Flash and he is the main character and the main star, you've got a 20-something episode season.
Yep.
I think it would be okay.
Primary point, Greg. How many times over the course of these CW shows do we hit that stretch where we say it feels like they're just spinning their wheels and stretching it out to get to the season finale, to get to the last closing stretch of episodes? Knowing that happens every year on every one of these shows, there would have been nothing wrong with doing the logical thing and telling the story over the course of at least 2 episodes, if not more than that. I was intrigued by what the dynamics of the team would have been like, without Barry there. I wanted to see more of Wally and Cisco and Iris all having to work together with Joe to kind of do their best to fill the role that Barry had left behind. I wanted to see more of Cisco having to actually track down Caitlin as opposed to just magically knowing where she was. I wanted to see Cisco be confronted with the problem of trying to bring Barry back and actually have to be frustrated by it and use his intelligence to figure it out rather than just devising this magical rubber ball off screen. There was so much more that they could have done with that episode or that entire series of subplots than what they did in this episode, in my opinion. We compare it to Flashpoint from last season, but the interesting thing about Flashpoint, when you go back and watch that episode, is Barry knows all along what the fix is, or he thinks he knows. He has to go back in time and stop himself from stopping Thawne, from killing his mother. And in his mind, that's going to reset everything. Now, of course, as we know, it leads to unintended consequences. But here, the idea of bringing Barry back shouldn't have been as easily obtained as it wound up being. You know, like,
Right.
I wanted to see the team struggle. I wanted to see the team have to come together and figure it out. And I feel like that's something that was just glossed over. And
while there's time to follow it up and see where, and hopefully there would be some ramifications from this, if there's no follow up to the Speed Force angle,
right,
that's going to be extremely disappointing, because the whole of last season was built around how the Speed Force is unstable, and the Speed Force won't allow this, and the Speed Force won't allow that.
And Barry has to learn not to cross the Speed Force. That was the entire gist of the Speed Force arc in last season, and it just, I don't know, man. I was very bugged by the entire how they handled the return of Barry and how cheaply won it felt. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I don't think it bothered me as much as it did you. I still liked the episode overall and enjoyed the fact that it's one of those
overall.
I think it's one of those. I think it's one of those means to an end situations for me, where it's even though I wish they had used different means, I think the end result being the team being back together and being cohesive is good. And we haven't even talked about the new big bad for this season, which I thought was awesome. Because for two main reasons. Number one, he's not a speedster.
Right.
First of all. Number two, the look of him is so awesome and so different from anything we've seen on this show to this point.
Yeah, I would agree with the look. The only thing that concerns me about the look is I think it's going to be very CGI reliant, and I worry because, there were times last year where the Savitar CGI really struggled, and I'm worried that given the budget and the special effects we've come to expect from the show, that might be the case here as well, where the Thinker look kind of tends to fluctuate a bit from week to week. But that's fine. I mean, I like the look, and I'm also excited about the fact that we're not getting another speedster villain. And again, I am happy to have the team back together. I just think it could have been more earned, in my opinion.
And the Thinker allows has a cool makeup, cool effects and everything, and it also gives them a chance to remind us that Barry is more than just a fast guy, that he's smart too.
And also give the team a bigger role to play. This
yes.
is a villain who will challenge Cisco just as much as he'll challenge Barry, as opposed to Savitar and Zoom, who were pretty much just out to get Barry.
Exactly. I really enjoy that. So that's Flash. Legends of Tomorrow also picked up its premiere after the team inadvertently screwed up the time stream at the end of last season.
Mm-hmm.
And as we find out very quickly in this episode, their screwing up of the time stream had unintended consequences beyond that, because Rip Hunter has, unknown to them, recreated a new version of the Time Police, if you will.
Yes, they were before it was the Time Masters, now it's the Time Bureau.
The Time Bureau. He's created this brand new bureau that is now large and in charge and well-staffed and well-trained and well-funded, and no longer is in need of legends and relieves them of duty. Unfortunately, as it turns out, the legends are not as good at real life as they are at superheroics. The only one that seems to be doing well for himself is Mick Rory, our old buddy Heatwave. Although
as they mentioned, he has his own set of complications.
Yes, a set of STDs apparently that he's accumulated, which doesn't seem to bother Ray and the rest of the team as much as you would expect.
No, they're just kind of
that's our Mick.
That's our Mick. Oh yeah, they have to. So the legends all have to get menial labor jobs, it sounds boring, but it's actually really, really entertaining. Sarah working at sinks, showers, and stuff was one of the highlights for me.
Yeah, I was gonna point that. I was gonna highlight that scene exactly. That tremendous. As if I needed any more reason to love Sarah. That whole sequence with her at that store was tremendous, including her fantasy sequence of her brutally slitting the throat of her boss. Amazing. And also a nice little beach fight scene that she has with Julius Caesar, which sounds ludicrous unless you watch Legends of Tomorrow.
And
but
she whoops that ass.
Whoops that Julius Caesar ass. And basically, it's hard to even describe what happens here, but Julius Caesar
the
is
legends
misplaced.
are fired because they're no longer needed to solve these time anachronisms, these issues of random time displacement. And so they have all gone their separate ways to live their private lives when suddenly in Aruba, which is a good playoff of last season, Mick Rory finds himself in contact with Julius Caesar, who has strangely showed up, and the Time Bureau had no knowledge of it, even though their system for tracking anachronisms is seemingly perfect and renders the legends obsolete. I can give you a moment to react to that. But anyway, so the appearance of Julius Caesar spurs Mick to contact the old other legends, and they set out on a mission to get the band back together, as it were. They steal the Wave Rider from the Time Bureau. They set out to investigate the appearance of Julius Caesar and return him to his proper time. Along the way, getting into all kinds of crazy hijinks that only Legends of Tomorrow is capable of pulling off in the CW universe. So that's kind of the plot of it. And I gotta say, I enjoyed like 95% of this episode. There's the one negative thing that's much like The Flash that I'm sure you and I will touch on in a minute, but whether it was the getting to see this, it's interesting because only to the Legends, only 5 minutes have passed since last season, but to Rip Hunter, years have passed. And so it's almost like this harder-edged Rip Hunter who has been forced to take on a greater responsibility than he's ever known before, and thus causes him to kind of be estranged from his former teammates in some way. You've got a version of Ray that is clearly very frustrated by no longer having the Legends in his life. You've got a version of Nate who is utterly heartbroken and despondent over what happened with him and Amaya off-screen, admittedly, which is frustrating. And then, of course, you have Mick being Mick and Sarah being Sarah. And it's just really cool to see this team back together, and it just reminded me of how much I had loved Legends of Tomorrow over the course of Season 2.
Oh, yeah. To me, my big recap of this episode, like I said, as is always the case with Legends, or usually the case, what happens isn't the plot of what happens in the episode isn't nearly as important as the journey of getting there.
Right.
Because Legends is the one show where I pretty much disregard the plot and just enjoy the character interactions, because I watch Legends and kind of look for something different than I look for from the other shows.
Agreed.
And what I look for from Legends is I want to laugh. I want to turn my brain off and laugh for an hour.
And I want to see wacky, zany, plots that they've put themselves in. How you resolve the plot isn't really important, but I want
crazy comic book concepts.
Yes.
From the Bronze Age that we could never see on television usually.
Right. And that's what it is typically.
And that's awesome. What it is. It's awesome. They still managed to create an emotional draw. They still managed to create an emotional angle, but the interactions between Ray and what's Steele's name? Nate. Ray and Nate. Their interactions are always great. Everything Mick Rory does is great. Sarah is amazing.
And what's really interesting is, between season 1 and 2, the cast had this major shakeup because I think the show was very much trying to find its way. And I think it's very telling that they really didn't tinker with the cast too much in between seasons 2 and 3, because I think the writers and the showrunners know that they kind of hit on the right formula for this show in season 2, and they're seeking to just give us more of the same in season 3, which I am all for.
Exactly. And we got a really heartwarming sacrifice from Martin Stein, who's willing to go back into the field to help out.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like you said, it's a show that's built so much on humor and just funny character interactions and zany plots. But when it wants to pull at the heartstrings, it's really successful. Maybe because it catches you so off guard. Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed that Martin Stein subplot as well.
And the more excuses to have Sarah do things at the beach, the better. So, but yes, I was a big fan of this episode. Really enjoyed it. Now, what was the that 5% you were referring to earlier?
The beginning of the episode. As I knocked the Flash for, you have this crazy cliffhanger from the season 2 finale that just kind of gets hand waved away. And yes, I am saying that I believe the Flash sort of hand waved away the Barry and the Speed Force thing And here you have the Legends breaking time at the end of season 2, what with dinosaurs and various artifacts from throughout time just randomly appearing in 2017 Los Angeles. And literally in the first 5 minutes, they just kind of all are time bureaued away magically. Now, the difference to me is because of the time travel aspect of Legends of Tomorrow and the increasingly zany and off the wall nature of it, I am more willing to accept that on Legends of Tomorrow, I guess, than I am on The Flash, just because of the differences between the two shows and the way they approach their storytelling typically.
And the anachronisms are still popping up, and so they kind of set it up where the Legends have as Mick put it, the finder thingy that will allow them to find these anachronisms and go after them over the course of the season. So the other interesting thing is, unlike previous season openers for Legends, no establishment whatsoever of a big bad for this season.
No, not yet. I am thinking that the Time Bureau itself is going to wind up being the big bad in some way, possibly due to that bitchy lady or the Asian guy that were both overbearing douchebags. Yes,
he did look a little stern, in my opinion. And stern in the not the Walking Dead universe. Stern in the Legends universe often means evil. So we'll see where that goes. It brings us to not Wednesday night, but Thursday night, and the premiere.
Thursday night, you're right.
Premiere of Arrow in a brand new time slot, an hour later than normal, following up Supernatural, and in a new day. And this, of course, picks up after one of the all-time great DC season finales from last year, where Leon Yu was seemingly blown to smithereens as a result of Adrian Chase taking his own life. And we pick up 5 months later, I believe, maybe 6.
Yeah, something like that.
5 or 6 months later, and pretty quickly on, we learn who survived and who didn't survive the island.
But you notice they intentionally held Felicity for like a commercial break. You know, they were teasing it pretty hard.
Did they have you worried?
They
for a
did.
Moment?
They legitimately had me worried.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too. Because then I started thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I bet they're just gonna have her show up as like a ghost figure to visit Oliver and stuff during the course of the season."
Right.
I was like, "Oh my God!" But now so they established that pretty early on in the episode, and we see a new dynamic of how everybody's working together. The team, it seems, is actually gelling now. Team Arrow is working,
including Curtis actually being used in a role that fits him, like not on the ground fighting hand-to-hand combat, but being used in a tech role out in the field, like using his genius and the T-spheres to help the team, you know, not necessarily doing the Felicity thing from behind the desk, but actually being out in the field using his smarts to help everybody. I liked that little aspect of it very much.
And the T-spheres continue to be one of the cooler pieces of technology in the
they continue to refine them. Yeah, they're getting better and better.
Big fan of that. The effects on that. We see there are obviously ramifications from what happened, but we see Ollie seeming to handle things pretty well. He seems to be in a better place than he's been in the past when he's lost people close to him. And as we find out over the course of the episode, he really didn't lose that many people close to him. He lost somebody that he was once close to, and he's
was he ever really that close to her? I always thought that was a one-night stand.
Well, they were physically close for a period of time, presumably about 60 seconds. And and of course he does have someone else he's very close to who is badly injured. But Ollie is handling it in a much more mature, positive fashion than he has in the past. And he's also managing to do a pretty darn good job as Star City mayor to this point. But as things go in Oliver Queen's life, usually things don't work out for the best. And so things start to show little cracks here and there. And we get the main crack, I guess, in his personal life is he has now assumed guardianship over his son, William, who wants absolutely nothing to do with him.
Yep.
Because William blames Oliver / the Green Arrow / the Bad Man for causing the death of his mother on the island. I'm sorry, that is a spoiler. I should have given you a spoiler warning.
You also should have given a spoiler warning when you said that not that many people close to Oliver were killed.
In fairness, you should have given a spoiler warning before you said that they teased us with Felicity.
That's true. So we're just going full spoiler for this Arrow portion, I suppose. We've already...
Absolutely. So spoilers,
yep.
Only William's mom died, although Thea was badly injured.
Yes.
We also seemingly, unspokenly, Oliver and Felicity appear to be back together. So
it seems like there's still a little tension there. Like she's not really sure how to handle this new status quo in Oliver's personal life, what with William being around there. And so there's still some tension there, but it seems like they're working towards, a return to the Olicity we all, and by we all, I mean all the people on Place to Be Nation Pop know and love.
Absolutely. And they were wonderful together as always.
Yes.
Nice touch by the creators of Arrow, the producers, to bring back Raina from the very first season of Arrow.
Yeah, that was good.
Oliver's old housemaid, who was apparently originally supposed to take on a much bigger role on the show, and was kind of replaced by Diggle as they kind of figured their way through that first season and how the dynamics were going to work. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to see her back and filling that role for William, who goes on a nice little character journey there. I will say, did it appear to you, Nick, that they did the random age up of William a little bit there?
It's hard to say because William was a character we didn't really see a ton of in last season. And plus, I think William is at that age, the actor himself, where kids tend to age pretty rapidly. So I wasn't really bothered by that. I didn't really notice it, to be honest. There were other aspects of it that, if I have to nitpick, I would say I didn't really love the fact that, spoiler alert, Thea survived. Nothing against Thea, other than the fact that I'm tired of her constantly going to find herself. But to me, having only William's mom die on Leon Yu kind of cheapens that season finale a little bit by not really making it impactful. Mm-hmm. Makes it impactful from the standpoint of now Oliver has his added responsibility in his life for sure. But in terms of true personal anguish, like, Oliver wasn't that close to William's mom. We are led to believe that perhaps both Talia and Nyssa passed away as well, but they're freaking Al Ghul's. They'll be back. We know that.
Right, and no bodies are found.
Yeah, so really, in hindsight, who did we actually lose? William's mom and Merlin? Malcolm Merlin, is that it?
Yeah, who had died before the big explosion.
Right.
So we lost Malcolm, we lost William's mom, and we had a badly injured Thea.
So I mean, there are things here I can nitpick. I think William's mom's death in flashback was...
Oh, yes, we have to talk about that. Okay. In an episode that I loved, that was a bottom 5 scene ever in Arrow.
Yes, I would agree.
One of the worst death scenes of all time. She literally staggers out of the forest. You know what it reminded me of, Nick? Remember the Dave Chappelle war movie segment? Death! That's what it reminded. It was that
one last request, Sarge. What's that, soldier? Permission to die, Sarge.
Oh God, that was.
I really like some pussy before I go. Oh,
death. Oh, so yeah, that's what it reminded me of because it was so comical.
It was.
She comes out, she goes, "I just had to know, Oliver."
And you know what sucks about that is the scene itself, the way it's laid out. It's a mistake on the part of the writers in the first place. And the woman, I don't even know the actress's name, but the lady who plays William's mom gives a terrible performance. And what sucks is you have this badly constructed scene with a terrible performance, but Stephen Amell does a fantastic job of trying to sell it. Like, he tries to save the scene, but there is nobody that could have saved that freaking scene.
The best part of it, though, is in the background as it happens, and Slade, I suppose Slade is trying to look somber, but he comes off to me as if he gives the look of, oh well.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Back to things that are awesome. How freaking awesome is it to have Slade back?
Yeah, I'm trying to get the negative things out of the way before I just verbally collate the episode. So the Williams mom bit was pretty bad, admittedly. And like I said, you can nitpick the Thea stuff, being alive.
And they should have shown a little bit more of the Black Canary versus Black Siren fights. I
would agree with that, but those things aside, I gotta say, man, I fucking loved this episode. You know, we've talked before, Greg, about how each of the CW shows kind of caters to a slightly different audience, and I love The Flash and I love Legends, and I mostly enjoy Supergirl. But to me, when all 4 shows are firing on all cylinders, Arrow is just more in my wheelhouse, so to speak. Like, it's the one,
I agree,
when all things are equal, that I am going to be more in favor of. And so you take a show that I'm already a little bit more predisposed to enjoy, and for me, you add that added subplot of Oliver struggling with the idea of being a role model and a parent, which is something I have, we've talked about on the show. I've long advocated for more of that in comic books and comic book related media. I think that's an interesting story to tell that is vastly underutilized. And you add that on top of a show that I already love the formula of, and it just creates this whole new dynamic that I can't wait to see play out. I absolutely loved the Oliver and William stuff. Was it a little over the top at times? Yes, but there's nothing wrong with that. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. I loved, we'll get to the Deathstroke stuff. I know you're going to be on board with that. I thought, as frustrating as it was at the end when he didn't pull the trigger, I got to say, I loved the Lance subplot in this one. The scene with he and Dinah at the bar where he's struggling with he's about to take that drink and he eventually doesn't, like playing with the idea that alcoholism is not something that just magically goes away. It's something you have to work on continuously every day when times get tough. Loved that aspect of it. The Diggle subplot of him losing his nerve about shooting or whatever, that was a little weird, but I'm assuming there's some sort of reveal there that we're going to get, probably a flashback back to Leon Yu at some point. And then, of course, as you said, Slade's involvement, very brief in this episode, not a ton of him, but him just kind of serving as this figure in the background that can pop in when needed, I think is going to add so much to Arrow this season. I am pumped to see where that goes.
It's been so long since we've been able to enjoy the burgeoning bromance between Oliver and Slade.
Right.
And it made me very happy in this episode. The scene with them in the hospital together was awesome. Even the bit on the island, because what I love about how they're using Slade is they're still wide open with their characterization. I don't know whether Slade is being upfront or not, because on the island, I don't know if this was even intentional on the part of the writers, but he was pretty misleading about how he explained to Oliver what was going on. He says he was coming back to look for people, and Oliver says, "What do you mean you were coming back to look for people?" And he says, "Oh, well, so-and-so went over to find a chopper, so-and-so went over here, and then the daughter of Ra's al Ghul went after the boy's mother." He doesn't mention Thea at all in there until Oliver says, "What about Thea? Thea's over here," or whatever. I still wonder if Slade might have had something to do with attacking Thea, because I wonder if he's still messed up in the head.
And that's a possibility. That may be why they kept Thea alive, so you get that big reveal at some point.
That big reveal. But maybe it's not. Maybe
yeah. You really,
and I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
I'm fine with either eventuality, because Slade is such a great character, and seeing him and Ollie, knowing that Oliver knows that this is the guy that killed his mom, but Oliver also realizing that he wasn't in his right mind, and kind of almost grudgingly getting his friend back, is really interesting. And it also speaks to the maturing of Oliver's character. And plus, I mean, Deathstroke / Manu Bennett has been one of the best parts of the show every time he's been on there. So phenomenal. And to your point, I thought the scene at the end with Oliver and William in William's room it tugged at the heartstrings.
Top notch, man. Good
yeah,
stuff.
Mel's performance in that and his speech was heartfelt, emotional, strong, and a worthy addition to some of the great scenes.
Here is the biggest praise I can pay this episode. An episode so good, even Wild Dog didn't suck.
No, he was good, and I like the fact that they're reopening the possibility of him getting custody of his daughter.
How it played off of how now Oliver can understand what he's been through and is trying to help him out, parent to parent. Like that whole Oliver parenting thing, I hope it's not something they explain away by the end of the season and have it no longer be a factor. It is a great addition to the show, one episode in.
Agreed. Now, I'm going to give you your moment, Nick. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We see at one point during the episode how Black Siren survives on the island, a gunshot wound at the hands of Quentin Lance. A mysterious figure arrives in a helicopter with goons and is wearing, all we see of him is some slacks and some nice dress shoes as he walks up and leans over and does something that helps Black Siren recover from her injury quickly and I'm assuming go into his employ. Now, who, Nick, do you think, who is your prime suspect for who this mystery individual could be?
Well, I'm going to have to go with, and I know this may come as a shock. It's a little bit out of left field, but
I don't know if I'm ready for whatever this could be.
I'm going to go, I think it's Tommy Merlin there.
You have got to be kidding me, Nick.
Well, that's my official prediction.
Tommy Merlin?
Yep.
But he's dead.
I'm going Tommy Merlin. And then, of course, later on in the season, they reveal the identity of Vigilante. I'm going Tommy Merlin of Earth 2.
Dueling Tommy Merlins. I guess if you're going to get Tommy Merlin back, you might as well maximize your investment, right?
Maximize life's minutes. Right?
Life's minutes. And you know what? For lack of a better guess, I'm gonna back you, Nick. I think this might be. I think you finally might get your prediction to come true, and if it does, we'll be rejoicing.
Indeed.
So that all happened, and I want to give a little praise as well. I thought Katie Cassidy did a good job as Black Siren.
So much better as a villain than she ever was as Laurel. Like,
agreed. Yep.
I never want to see her be heroic in any way, shape, form, or fashion. In interviews, the showrunners have teased a redemption arc for her this season.
Don't want it.
I don't want any part of it.
Nope. Not interested.
I don't want her arc.
Nope. I want her to be evil, and then when the time comes, I want them to build to it, and then I want Dinah to beat her ass.
To put her down.
Yep. So, with all that being said, it's time to rank them.
Yep.
And I actually had a hard time ranking them, Nick, after the top.
I didn't, honestly. I enjoyed all four of them, but they fell into very clearly defined levels of enjoyment for me this week.
All right. Well, let's hear yours.
Are we going 1 to 4 or 4 to 1?
What do you want to do? You're going first.
I asked you the question, for God's sake.
Let's go 1 to 4.
1 to 4. For me, Arrow, far and away, at number 1. Number 2, Legends. Number 3, Supergirl. And number 4, Flash.
And I am going to go Arrow at number 1, Legends at number 2, Flash at number 3, and Supergirl at number 4.
Fair enough.
Enjoyed all of them.
Absolutely. Enjoyed all of them. But, like I said, I had my big hang up with Flash that that really, really bugged me. And I thought that was one of the stronger episodes of Supergirl in a long time. But, that's the thing. Like, Supergirl, because of its inconsistent nature, it takes a really strong episode from Supergirl and a down week for the Flash for Supergirl to pass Flash for me.
I agree. And I understand. If I'm being, honest about the construction of the episodes, I would probably say Supergirl was a better episode, but I just give Flash such an inherent advantage because I care more about the characters.
Right. Yeah.
But I can't argue with you on that. I think that Supergirl was awesome, and I'm probably giving the Flash a little bit of an advantage of the characters. But I agree. I think that our rankings don't necessarily match up with a lot of our friends' rankings on this one.
No, they do not.
But those are our respective rankings, and pretty similar on this occasion. I'm sure we'll have weeks where we differ more stringently at the top. But in any event, that wraps up.
I'm just saying, with the new elements added on Arrow, it's gonna take a hell of an effort for some of these episodes to knock Arrow off the top spot for me this year, I think.
I agree. Well, let's swing over to the weekly look at the news and notes in the comic book world. Let's slip over to the rundown.
Carl.
Welcome to the rundown.
Where's Carl?
And the first part of our rundown, we're going to start it with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and a revelation of sorts, if you can believe it, from Mark Ruffalo, the man who plays the Hulk in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He is going to be a big part of Thor Ragnarok. He's going to be a big part of Thor Ragnarok just here in a few weeks. And he was in an interview and mentioned that we're getting ready for a Planet Hulk arc featuring the Hulk. So here's a quote from Mark Ruffalo to Cinema Blend. Quote, "So basically, Kevin Feige pulled me aside before this and said, if we were going to do a standalone Hulk movie, what would it be? And I said, I think it should be this, 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 and this, and this, and end up like this," Ruffalo told Cinema Blend. And he's like, "I love that. Why don't we do that in the next 3 movies, starting with Thor 3, and then we go into Avengers 3 and 4. And I was like, that sounds great. And so we are at the beginning of this arc. That would be Thor Ragnarok, and then we go from there to May of 2018's Avengers Infinity War, and then the next year, May of 19's 4th Avengers movie. Ruffalo says the arc is about, quote, Hulk speaking is the start to separating of these two individuals, these identities in this split identity person, and where that's going to end up going. So it was really interesting to me. He's like a baby. He's like a 5-year-old or 6-year-old. So he has the same syntax. He has the same worldview. And so it was fun. It's like Chris. We all got to reinvent our characters in this. It says, Rose lamented the inability for Marvel and Universal Pictures to come to terms on a new Hulk film. He says, quote, this is from a previous interview, "I want to make one thing perfectly clear today. A standalone Hulk movie will never happen." That's what he said back in July. So, a lot to unpack here, Nick. What are your thoughts on Ruffalo's comments? Seems like we're going to see a Hulk subplot play out over the course of the next few movies.
Yeah, it's a good idea in theory. The only part of it that gives me some concern is there's clearly enough time and room in Thor Ragnarok with a little bit smaller cast to give the Hulk a major subplot. My concern becomes if the last two parts of this 3 arc are supposed to play out in Avengers 3 and 4, which we've already been told is going to have the largest cast of superheroes ever put on the screen. Upwards, I think they said, of 40 named characters at one point appearing together. How much time do you really have to give the Hulk in a showcased role? Because all of these other major characters are going to be battling it out for screen time. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out, because I just worry that whatever this arc they're going to have is going to have to be stripped down a lot to fit the last 2 parts into these Infinity movies.
Is it possible Hulk is the villain in the 4th Avengers movie?
I don't think you can go from Thanos to Hulk. I think.
Well, it depends on if they overpower Hulk the way that they did in World War Hulk.
That's true. I don't see that happening, honestly. I think I still maintain, even despite Feige's denial, that I'll be very, very surprised if Thanos isn't the primary villain in both Avengers 3 and 4. But it could happen. We will just have to wait and see. But I'm down for more Hulk. I'm just concerned that these really crowded Avengers movies may not be the best place for that in-depth look at the Hulk.
And my main concerns with this are, first of all, I was not a big fan of Planet Hulk, the book. Like a lot, I know that's blasphemy in some circles. A lot of people love the book. Most people love the book. I wasn't impressed by it. And probably the reason I wasn't impressed by it, and the other thing that really gives me pause here, is the idea of an evolving intelligence for the Hulk.
That's concerning for sure. Yep, I would agree.
Because I think one of the things that makes Hulk unique is that he's dumb.
Agreed.
And, that's just part of it. But in any event, I'm going to be interested to see it play out. Ruffalo's been awesome in the role, so we'll see how it all goes from here. The other big Marvel cinematic news of the week was we got a brand new trailer for Black Panther.
We sure did.
This one dropped this week. What'd you make of it, Nick?
Loved it, dude. I have loved both of these trailers for Black Panther I have seen thus far, and both of them kind of serve different purposes. The first one was just kind of giving you a look at the Panther himself, like getting you excited to see him in action. But this one, I thought, did a great job of providing you with these establishing shots of not just his supporting cast, his environment, getting to see what just a small glimpse of what the MCU version of Wakanda is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the design of Wakanda. I love that moment in the trailer where he's in the ship and then you break through like the holographic barrier and you actually see what Wakanda really looks like. I loved getting to see the technology, the attire, the different customs, just the little things you see throughout this trailer, man. So much in there that looks awesome. Love the little glimpse of Andy Serkis back as Ulysses Claw. And Michael B. Jordan as the admittedly cheesily named Eric Killmonger has me really pumped.
My boss and I were talking today about how awesome it would be if Killmonger and Hatemonger from the comics came together on the big screen.
That's true. And another brief glimpse of one of JR's favorite Marvel villains, Ubuntu, the man-ape.
Yeah, it was great. Everything looked awesome in here. The designs,
the soundtrack, for God's sake, Greg. Like, whether it's the actual score, which kind of has a little bit more of a hip-hop feel to it, or the actual usage of different tracks, this is going to be one of the most distinctive musical experiences in the MCU to this point.
Do you remember Creed?
Yes, I do remember Creed, of course.
Yes. Coogler brought that same feel to Creed, and that's the feel that he's bringing to this.
I've been saying this ever since I saw the first trailer, and I'm telling you now, guys, do not be surprised when Black Panther is the Wonder Woman of 2018. It is the movie that is going to appeal to a broader audience than we've probably seen for one of these films in a long, long time, because it's going to serve an audience that, quite frankly, has been underserved by superhero adaptations to this point. It is going to be a massive success, even by Marvel standards. That's my initial prediction for it, and it looks like a hell of an entry in the MCU thus far.
Yeah, and the director, Ryan Coogler, is, quite frankly, the most established director they've brought in quite some time in the MCU, I would say.
Yeah.
He's got a pedigree now that's very strong, a rock bottom that's very strong, and a Stone Cold Stunner that's very strong, too.
Absolutely, yep.
Now, I will say there were a few moments in the trailer, CGI-wise, that weren't great.
Right, but this one is one that's still, 4 months away from release.
Exactly,
so,
and Marvel has
a track record.
Yes, unlike certain other industries or companies, rather, Marvel has a track record of the CGI being flawless when the movies come out, for the most part. So, very much excited about this. I would say, in a year without Infinity War, this would probably be my most anticipated superhero movie of 2018.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that.
And I was also, as great as the consistency of 2017 to this point will be tough to top. But if you look at next year, we have got one hell of a lineup for comic book films. We've got Aquaman, which is another movie I'm really looking forward to that I think is going to be awesome.
Absolutely.
And we got a Dark Phoenix coming next year as well. We got Deadpool.
Is that next year?
Next year, yep.
So
it's already wrapped filming.
3 X-Men movies next year?
Yep.
Wow.
Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2?
Which I think everybody knows is going to be awesome if it's anything like the first one.
Of course.
And we got a trailer this week for a movie that, quite frankly, both of us were skeptical of and even dismissive of, in my case,
right,
when we first talked about it. We got a trailer this week that's causing some buzz, and that is a trailer for a new movie titled New Mutants from 20th Century Fox, based on the New Mutants property. And it is, at least judging by the trailer, it is unlike anything that's ever been done in the superhero realm.
Have we it's tough to say. Okay, so you said the trailer's getting some buzz, but let's acknowledge this trailer has been fairly divisive to this point for a lot of people. And I think part of that is because when I turned it on to watch this trailer, I was not at all expecting what I got. Even though the director Josh Boone had said in interviews he was going for more of a horror feel, to me, horror feel did not mean horror movie. And if this trailer is indicative of what the actual film is going to be, they have really gone out and made the first true horror superhero film. Even more so than the Blade films, which had horror elements, but this is what appears to be going for a straight up horror film. And I gotta say, mainly just because it was so unexpected and so different from literally every other superhero trailer I've ever seen, I loved the hell out of it, because at the very least, it is going to be distinctive and something entirely its own.
Absolutely. I was divided. The first time I watched it, I was like, what the hell? Quite honestly, I was like, I don't know about this. And then I watched it again, and I was like, you know what? This is exactly why I'm okay with Fox still having the rights to the X-Men movies, because like we've said with Deadpool, with Logan, with other movies, for better or worse, we don't know how this is going to end up.
It could be terrible. I mean, let's be honest, the track record of PG-13 rated horror films is not very strong. I mean, like, if you're playing the odds of this working out are fair slim, but they're trying something different. Like, people talk all the time about wanting variety. Well, if you want variety, this is variety. This is what that looks like. And I am, you said it yourself, Greg, we were very skeptical. I'm on board for this. This looks, if not over the top amazing, it looks interesting. It looks like something that has brought me from I don't have that much interest to it to now I really want to see it just to see how it's out. And
it is a film that Marvel would never make.
Yes.
And it is a film that Warner Brothers would never make. Within the DC universe, in all likelihood.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do with Dark Universe.
And we don't know what they're doing with that whole Elseworlds label or whatever they're going to do with that.
Right.
So, I could kind of agree with that. Yeah.
And to give you an idea of how, I guess, evocative this trailer was, and you mentioned divisive and drawing responses all across the board, but it is a horror trailer. And here's what I'm looking at Twitter right now. Bill Sienkiewicz, the legendary artist who drew New Mutants back in the day and drew it in a very distinctive style, very horror-themed style. He's quoting from the MTV article about the trailer. He says, the New Mutants, and it says in quotes, prepare to have nightmares. And he says, ironically, my exact goal when drawing the issues. So the creator is on board with it. So we'll see where it ends up. But I was very pleasantly, I was just caught off guard. And I think that's a good thing in a world where we get so many movies that are so similar. And don't get me wrong, again, not knocking them. We just talked about how great Black Panther is going to be. We love the Marvel movies, but variety is good. And sometimes in the course of getting variety, it doesn't work out. Sometimes you get X-Men Origins Wolverine, but is it worth it to go through X-Men Origins Wolverine to get Deadpool or to get Logan? To me, it is. Because we've got plenty of great characters that Marvel can plug into their formula and make work. It's not like Marvel's going to run out of characters anytime soon. So I like the fact that we've got this for the other characters. So really cool stuff. And speaking of the X-Men universe, one of those movies that's been in developmental hell is Gambit, starring Channing Tatum. And it's finally got, whether you believe it or not, a release date. 20th Century Fox has put it in stone, so to speak. February 14th, 2019. For this movie. It will come out 1 week after Sony's Silver and Black Spider-Man spinoff, and 3 weeks ahead of Marvel's Captain Marvel. So you've already made your thoughts known on this.
One of those Gambit or Silver and Black films either A, won't happen, or B, will change release dates. There's no way they come out within a week of each other. Not going to happen.
There's no reason, given past precedent, to believe that they're going to hit this date with Gambit.
Nope. Or with Silver and Black, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those things that's ultimately destined for Channing Tatum to just give up. Then again, this is kind of what Ryan Reynolds went through. Greg, the Deadpool movie kind of stopped and started, and it's eventually only thanks to Ryan Reynolds that movie even gets made. So maybe Channing Tatum is just as passionate about this as Ryan Reynolds was about Deadpool, but it's hard to imagine much of anybody being as passionate about anything as Ryan Reynolds was about Deadpool. So ultimately, I have a hard time believing this ultimately happens, even though I maintain I am a fan of the idea of a Gambit movie, if not necessarily this Gambit movie.
And from the unknown to the known, and unfortunately in this case, it's a sad fact that we have to tell you, and that is that Victor Garber will be exiting DC's Legends of Tomorrow during the third season. This, according to Deadline. The Hollywood Trade reports that Garber's exit will allow him to return to Broadway to star in a revival of the musical Hello, Dolly with Bernadette Peters. There's a name I haven't heard in quite some time. I believe she was in The Jerk with Steve Martin. And that will debut in January of 2018. Now, as if it wasn't bad enough that we're losing Victor Garber, we're losing him to a musical. As you know, Nick, that causes me great pain. But good for Martin Stein, his character. Victor Garber does play Martin Stein, one half of the Firestorm Matrix. Good for him. He's awesome. He's doing his thing. He also, I noticed, appears occasionally on the Orville on the Fox channel, which has been somewhat of a success to this point. So he's a busy man, but he's done a great job on Legends, and I'm going to miss him.
And it's sad to see him go for right now, but these Broadway musicals, eventually they come to a close. There's nothing to prevent, just by the very nature of the show, there's nothing to prevent him from returning to the cast in future seasons, or at least making future guest appearances. So here's hoping that we haven't seen the very, very last of Victor Garber in the DC CW universe.
I do wonder if this opens the door for Robbie Amell to return.
That would be really interesting, and I think it would be neat to see how these two guys who are used to having, each of them used to having that that voice of wisdom in their head, that being the voice of Martin Stein, are able to coexist with each other, and who would take on the physically dominant role as opposed to the mentally dominant role? Or could it perhaps be a situation where they alternate between which actor is in the costume and which one is doing the voiceover? I think there's a lot of potential in that. Let's hope that's what winds up happening.
Absolutely. There's also a chance that it could be Martin Stein's daughter as well. I would throw that out there.
Oh, that would be interesting. Or perhaps a future version of his yet-to-be-born grandchild.
I didn't even thought that. Yeah. Lots of possibilities here, but Victor will be missed, and hopefully he'll be making occasional appearances in the future. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to stick with the DC motif, and we're going to move down into comics, which is what the namesake of the show is. That's what we're all about here. And a pretty historic run is getting ready to come to an end. Granted, it's a run that we haven't read much of. We've not really been the target audience for this book, but what the book has done is brought a new audience into comics and shown remarkable strength in the process. Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti, the married couple that worked together on so many different books, they have announced that they are departing DC's Harley Quinn. December 20th, Harley Quinn number 34 will be their final issue of the series. And it will also be the last issue for the artist, who is John Timms. Palmiotti said to the Washington Post, quote, "We just felt like maybe it's a good time to take a break, take a step back, go on a honeymoon, maybe spend some of the money we made on each other and get to know each other. We love this character, but we felt like a lot of times you work on books and the sales drop and the character isn't popular anymore. With Harley, we figured, well, let's take a nice break while the character is essentially as hot as ever." End quote. Now, Connor says that she plans to return to doing more interior art after completing their Harley Quinn run, which started way back in 2014 in the New 52, when they relaunched Harley Quinn with number 1, where she was the co-writer and the cover artist. But Connor says that drawing the interiors is my favorite thing. I love it so much, and I kind of miss doing that, and I'd like to get back into it. Now, the series will be taken over by Frank Thierry, along with art by Inaki Miranda, starting with January's Harley Quinn number 35. Connor and Palmiotti's final issue will kill off one of her supporting cast, and it'll send Harley to Florida to visit her parents and recuperate. So, obviously, Nick, we can't comment on what's going on within the book, but we do know that this is a pretty historic run, as it has been the run that has been they've been the creative team on Harley during, I think, one of the most surprising and interesting stories in comics, which has been the overwhelming success of Harley Quinn in the last several years.
Yeah, it's been one of the most unforeseen smash hits in terms of from a financial standpoint that we've encountered possibly ever in comics. Like, nobody really saw a Harley Quinn solo title becoming a consistent top 10 book, which is what it's been for the duration of this run. And so now I'm very intrigued to see if the book maintains that level of popularity with the new creative team. So, I mean, we're going to find out here, I think. Is it the character alone, or was it the perfect marriage of character with creators? I'm very intrigued to see that, and I'm excited to hear. I always love it when creators leave the door open for a future return. I know Jeff Johns has always done that with Aquaman, saying he would like to come back and tell that Rise of the Seven Seas story or whatever it was. I forget the exact title of it. So good to hear that they could be back at some point, but I'm going to have my eye on at least the sales charts to see what happens with this one. I'm intrigued to see what the dyed-in-the-wool Harley fans that Amanda and Jimmy helped build over the last, Greg, 7 years?
2014, so yeah. 3 years. So
Really?
Almost 4 years, yeah.
Huh, feels longer than that. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited to see how that fan base responds to it, and hopefully Harley continues to be a massive sales success for DC Comics.
Absolutely, and the beauty of it is it's not aimed at readers like us.
No,
it's aimed at a totally different audience that bought in, and actually it worked at getting that audience in. And so, they need to keep doing what they're doing.
And that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
A good thing. Well, we're going to close out with a pretty nice bit of nostalgia here. We talked a little bit ago, a few episodes ago, about the unfortunate passing of Len Wein, the co-creator of characters like Wolverine and Swamp Thing. Well, it turns out he was working on a brand new series or miniseries for Swamp Thing when he passed away earlier this year. Along with Kelly Jones, that classic kind of gothic artist that did Batman stories back in the 80s and 90s. Well, that story will appear, the first issue of it, in a just-announced Swamp Thing Winter Special #1 that will include the original script as well as the art by Kelly Jones. And the quote from Kelly Jones is, quote, "His major plan was pretty much a straight horror title. He kept stressing that angle to me, that bringing up a lot of those DC horror characters was what would make the book more unique. His main thing was to stress that Alec was turned into Swamp Thing. He really wanted to stress that again. He felt that there was a lot of story potential in that," end quote. So this book will also feature Tom King contributing a 40-page story to the one-shot, drawn by Jason Fabok. And he compares it to a horror movie like It. He says you're going to get close to the darkness so that when you come out, you can smile at the light. Looks really, really interesting. And I'm just happy that DC's doing this. This is cool to see the last thing that Len Wein was working on come into light.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very rare that you get these kind of instances where there are, projects this close to completion when these creators die. So it's kind of cool that we'll be graced with one last piece of Len Wein art, and especially on a character they helped to co-create. So it's only appropriate that this probably be his final piece of published comic work.
Absolutely. And that brings an end to the rundown. And with it, we're wrapping up on the show here. I did want to ask, Nick, did you have a chance to watch something I posted in a Facebook group that we're both in earlier this week, the Batman Creators panel?
No.
Pretty interesting. It was
I know Frank Miller was on it, but I didn't.
Frank Miller, James Tynion the Fourth, Tom King, Sean Murphy, and the guy that is writing the Signal book. I've forgotten his name, but
okay. So basically, all the modern, like the current non-Scott Snyder guys,
right?
Plus Frank Miller.
Yeah. Yes, and they were all on a panel. It was really interesting. It's a good watch, entertaining, primarily because of the banter between Miller and King and Murphy, but just was curious if you'd seen that. But
no.
That's neither here nor there. With that being said, folks, next week is the big wrap-up for Walking Dead month. We will be offering you our hottest of hot takes on the season premiere of The Walking Dead, which will be undoubtedly watched by millions and millions of people. And we will have our a few days later takes on whatever happens on that episode. Nick, what are you looking for from this season premiere?
I'm looking to see how they start the all-out war off. I'm looking for a big bang, so to speak. I know this is going to be, the show has kind of never really been known for action-driven episodes, and I think in a season where the war is going to be the primary subplot, I'm looking for the show to kind of push the boundaries in different ways that it never has before. I'm looking for it to kind of stretch itself, to challenge itself, to become better at these thrilling action scenes, while also giving us these great character moments that we've come to know and love. And of course, I'm looking for more of Dr. Eugene Porter.
Interestingly, you're looking for a big bang from the series, and I'm looking for a young Sheldon. And the other thing is, I do want to see the show grow. I want to see some cohesion and development. Last season was about Rick kind of getting his mind right after the horror of everything that happened at the beginning with all the deaths and everything. He seems to have gotten himself together. The troops have rallied. Now it's time to go on the offensive, and it's time to see maybe, and I know this is a little beyond the pale for The Walking Dead, maybe have things go good for the heroes at some point during the course of the season. Just for, a little tit for tat, little give and take here. That'll be nice to see.
But not before Negan brutally bashes Carl's skull in with Lucille.
Well, the only thing I can say to that is, heaven help us, baby's got her blue jeans on. If you'd like to hear more of our country crooning, please contact us on social media and listen to next week's episode. Mm-hmm. Nick, what do we have coming the people's way in November? More Mel McDaniel hits?
One can only hope. But in November, we're going to be having a weird month for us, because we're going to be, usually we will do these theme months around big major superhero film releases, but since we have 2 of those in November, we're going to hit you with 2 different special episodes. Full reviews of both Thor Ragnarok and Justice League. And we've got a Longbook hunt on the Surtur saga planned as a tie-in to the Thor episode, and also a countdown of something Justice League related. We haven't actually ironed out the finer details of that yet, but the important thing is that the Justice League podcast future is secure.
I was going to do it if you didn't. Very, very good, Mr. Lau. Now, with that being said, we look forward to catching up with you all next week. It's going to be a rousing weekend as we all get prepared for the new season of The Walking Dead. Follow us on social media. Download all the other great shows here on PTB and Pop, Sellers Points, Geek and Sassy, Conversation Comics, Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, NBA Team, Lucha Undead, all of the great podcasts we have here at PTB and Pop. Sunday Groove, don't want to let that one out.
You mean easy like David Sunday?
Whatever you choose to call it, that podcast got David in it. And with that being said, I don't have any good way to end this show, so stay with us, folks. Stay on the network. Visit us next week, and we'll be back.
Fanboys.